Obviously, a lot of new guys, as you guys saw. 7 new players. We have good days, we have bad days, and that's to be expected. But you know, there's a competitiveness to this team. There's a toughness to this team that I like. We're kind of in the dog days of training camp per se, so I think these guys are excited to play some other people and kind of get going here. And it's close, but we need a lot of work as well. Can I talk about? I can't, right? Tomorrow? Okay. It's a secret, yeah.
There's probably not just two guys more amped up to play actual games than Peyton and Marcus have been here a year.
Yeah.
Talk about those guys, what they mean to.
Very, very important. Yeah, very important guys. I mean, especially with Amir leaving. We're playing more of 3 guards. I guess Amir's a guard too, but he was obviously a lot bigger and longer. But Peyton and Marcus are 2 very, very important guys for us. They make us. We got a lot of new guys, but they're not young. And they can't act young. Young guys are they're gonna do some things some days that are gonna make you go crazy. They just can't do it too much. That's the key with young guys. But Marcus and Peyton, I don't look at them like young guys. I look at them like veterans.
Having played in the Power 5 already, as opposed to a guy mid-level coming up, transferring, what are the advantages?
Yeah, it should be an advantage. It's Ali Han, obviously, playing at Drexel. It's a different level. That'll be an adjustment for him. For him, we need him. So, he's not going to be, something where buried on the bench by any means. I mean, he needs to play and he needs to make an impact. But obviously for Marcus and for Peyton playing in the SEC, playing in the ACC, that should give them confidence. And there'll still be an adjustment. Every league's different. Every environment's different. Every team is different. But they should be a little bit more ready than the other guys.
Guys talked about playing with pace and spacing this year. Is that the style that you would prefer to play when you have the personnel to do it?
I would love to have 4 to 5 shooters on the court at all times. I mean, it just opens up everything else for you. But last year's team was unique. It wasn't a great shooting team, but it was great at getting fouled. I mean, we were terrific at getting to the foul line. We were terrific at getting your best players on the bench. It sounds simple, but if you can get the best players in foul trouble and get them on the bench and go against those second-string guys, that was the strength of that team last year. So we may be a little bit better shooting, spreading the court. It's easier. You can run different things when you have shooters. But we're gonna miss some things too from last year's team. Now, I mean, we were a great rebounding team, obviously one of the best rebounders in Big Ten history. I would love to be able to have more shooting on the court, and that comes with recruiting as well as developing it. It wasn't pretty, you know what? But we won. I mean, that's the bottom line. Is you don't always have to win pretty, and it wasn't. But I remember when we won at Wisconsin, and I think it was in the 50s. And I remember saying to the guys, like, hey, guys, it's okay. We may have to do this. This may be our identity. Embrace it. And the bottom line is, if you're a good team, you have an identity. If you don't have an identity, you're probably not a good team. And we'll figure out what our identity is. I'm not sure just yet. It's still so early.
Not necessarily identity, but what's this team's personality?
Gym rats, they live in the gym. They're really good at that. They're before practice, after practice. They love getting shots up. It's just now a matter of how badly do you want to win, because all this is well and good. And something I tell them all the time is, do you think you can do that in a game and win? Whether or not it's if you don't like a call, pouting, which young people will do, or you don't get the ball and you throw your arms up, body language wise. Like, do you think you can do that at Michigan State and win? Do you think you could do that at Butler and at Utah and win? So I think they want to be good, but there's going to be a shock factor that goes in all these things when you have so many new players.
With a change in personnel, change in style, how's the acclimation process coming along with all that?
It's like I said, we have some good days and we have some days where I'm like, my goodness, what are we doing, right? I mean, it's just it's normal. But I would say we've had a lot of good days. I think that the young guys want to learn. They're competitive. They're confident. They're very confident. which is good. I mean, it's just a matter now of understanding what this journey is. This journey is it's a long ride with a lot of ups and downs, but fortunately or unfortunately, we've got one of the toughest non-conference schedules I've played since I've been here, which is exciting. It'll make us better. It'll two pure road games in the non-conference, as well as when you look at those early Big Ten games. It used to be you could have a bunch and kind of work your way up to the tough games. You can't do that anymore, but it's exciting as well.
Richard, where do you feel like your backcourt depth is at behind Marcus and Peyton, and obviously Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, it's you got freshmen, right? I mean, you're starting to, a lot of guys off the bench are young, and so I don't know until we get into a game. I do know that I like BJ a lot. He's getting better. He works his butt off. He's tough. He's understanding because he's an undersized guard that you've got to scrap. You got to be an absolute menace on the ball defensively, and he's starting to do that. Trey is multi-positional. He's talented, but he got to figure out how to impact the game. Isaiah Enan is talented. How do you impact the game? So from a backcourt standpoint, I think that they're pretty versatile. That's what the goal is, to always get guys who can play multiple positions, and I do think that those guys are starting to figure it out.
What does it say about a guy like Curry? When you talk to him today, you would never guess that he's now suffered his third pretty significant injury.
Pretty amazing, yeah. I can't believe his attitude. It's phenomenal. When he did it a couple weeks ago, whenever that was, you could kind of tell something was there. And then I FaceTimed with him that night when we found out, and no feeling sorry for himself. Very, very positive. His energy every day in practice is like, to me, I love the fact that, he's legitimately like another coach. Because injured guys could sit down on the side, or they can find other ways to impact the team. Eric has absolutely done that. I value his opinion. Like, the players when they're in competition, they don't always see it, right? Just because they're playing. Where when they're on the sidelines and they kind of, oh, coach, I know what you mean a little bit, and Eric's got that. So I do think that he can bring great value to the team this year. But he's also a very, very important piece from a basketball standpoint. So we're going to miss a lot, but, he should be commended for his attitude.
Do you see yourself sort of filling those minutes at the 4?
Well, yeah, we're going to have to look at Isaiah some at the 4. Alihan obviously is a 4. Jarvis can play the 4. So the only real transition is Isaiah more going from that 3 to a 4, because it's always hard to play 3 guys at one spot in a game. It's almost impossible. So you got to start moving around pieces a little bit. So Isaiah is the one that's going to have to play some of those minutes.
Will that entirely be a defensive transition? Like, will you have a 4 in your offense?
Yeah, it's to me, I think it's all kind of changed. I think that everybody's playing on the perimeter. It's more just knowing the plays. I'm not going to post them up a lot. It's just an understanding of the system, because they're not pros. It's not as simple as giving a terminology of a set and them knowing it like an NBA player would. So when you're coaching young kids, you're trying to get them to play hard. You're trying to get them to play the right way. And then you're trying not to overload their mind with all those things. So he's a forward. He could certainly play multiple spots. It's just a matter of overloading his mind.
What was the day like in practice when Eric goes down, but then at the end you give Brady the scholarship? That's a pretty special moment for him.
Yeah, it was a little bit of highs and lows that day, and we had it planned, obviously, to film it, and it was a great moment for him. He deserves it. He's a walk-on, but he's a pretty good player. He's not a typical never ever play in practice type walk-on. He's good. He's a good player, and he deserves it. He epitomizes what Minnesota basketball is all about. He's a great teammate, a great kid. He's a guy, I've said before, if he doesn't have a great job waiting for him when he's done, shame on the community, because he's done his part and he's ready for that. So whatever it is that he's going to be, this community's got to understand they got a special one.
Out of all the new faces, do you see younger players like Gabe and Daniel taking more of a leadership role, and how do you think they'll handle that?
They need to. Yeah, they need to. This team does not have a lot of upperclassmen. So like the whole. I said to them the other day, I said, if I'm constantly talking about how young we are, that probably means we're losing. It's the bottom line. If I'm constantly talking about we have no leadership, that probably means the young guys are just sitting back on their hands. So, like, you're young, so what? Nobody cares. That's kind of the way I look at it. Michigan's not going to feel sorry for you. They're not going to take it easy on you. This is about wins or losses, figuring that out. So they know how to do it. It's just a confidence level. Gabe should have confidence. I think Gabe's one of the best guards in the conference. I really do. I think Gabe's got a chance to play for money, play in the NBA. And that's because Gabe works hard every single day. There's no nonsense. There's no distractions before practice, after practice. And, young guys see that. And they wonder why every time Gabe shoots, it goes in. Pretty simple, and Gabe keeps it simple.
With Peyton and Marcus, is it easy for you to see kind of where they've grown in the past year, even though they haven't really gone up against much competition?
Well, yeah, transfer years are hard, sit-out years, because the end seems so far away, and it just seems like it's going to take forever for the season to get here. There are often times during the season they may be the scout team guys. So, you see a little bit of a, hey, Marcus, beat Carson Edwards, and all of a sudden he's doing some things like, wow, like beat Carson Edwards every day. So for them, I think that they got some good reps last year, but it's not the same as when it's right in front of you. So I do think that they'll be ready to go, and I think they're excited about it. They're ready to go. They're playing well, though.
Is there a rust factor at all, you think, after
I think there will be. It's natural, like anything else. There'll be a nerves factor. There'll be a anticipation that's been building up over and over again. So, when you play a scrimmage, play an exhibition game, and you try to simulate as much as you possibly can, but you also understand that it's just not the same.
You think that non-conference schedule is going to help guys like Marcus and Peyton get back up to speed?
If we win them. It doesn't help anybody if you lose, I think they see it and they go, okay, we got 6 out of 10, or I guess power 6, with Big East, obviously with high major opponents. 2 true road games. We better be ready. So I think there's a sense of urgency to it all.
This time of the year last year, in November, Trey signed, and the class kind of, slowly came together after that with some other guys, Spring, and then, Alihan with the grad transfer. Can you talk about just that group? Just kind of a non-traditional recruiting class where guys like BJ came really late.
I think you're going to see more and more of guys coming late. With the landscape of college basketball, I think that the traditional sign everybody in the fall and not sign anybody in the spring is different. I don't know if it's going to be that way anymore. So from a coaching standpoint, when you're running your program, you can't panic. You got to be patient. You got to get the right guys. You can't be consumed with winning Twitter, right? You got to get the right class, and you got to put together the right team to go win in the Big Ten, regardless of when you do it. You can get quality players late with the 5th-year transfer stuff, and with the way that college basketball has moved, and all the rules changing, and all those things. So patience is very, very important.
Were you surprised when the class came together the way it did? When you're looking at it, all of a sudden, Trey is, I know you don't give about rankings, but he's 4-star, and then Isaiah, the kid from Germany ends up being a high-level kid. And, the class itself, if you look at the rankings, look pretty good, but these are more under-the-radar guys.
Yeah, listen, to say like we don't care about rankings and they're irrelevant, they're not irrelevant. Your fans see them. Other guys that you're recruiting see them. So as much as it's a little victory. The big victories happen the 30-something games you play. Those are the really important ones. But those little victories that you can build in recruiting to show that we're beating out really good programs. We're going to the NCAA tournament. Our guys are playing in the NBA. They're getting opportunities. They're graduating. All those little victories matter. So no, I wasn't surprised when all of a sudden all the scouts saw Trey Williams and thought he was a top 100 kid. I wasn't surprised because he was really, really under the radar. I wasn't surprised that Isaiah Enan was a 4-star kid because if you look at him and you watch him play, really, really talented. He's got big time potential. And Sam and BJ may be a little bit more under the radar, but that doesn't mean they can't be effective players. So, like I said before, in the world that we live in of where everybody's in a rush, and why haven't they done it? Why, patient and let's get to the end result, and I think it could be pretty good.
Were there times last year where your scout team would take it to your regular guys?
Well, I thought we had a pretty good team last year. So no, I don't think so. But it's also it's different. Like guys are going to conserve in February, and Marcus and Peyton, who don't have to play the next day, and they're just playing with reckless abandonment because it doesn't really matter to them. Like it's just different. So now is the time to beat each other's brains out. But during the season, that's where we got to be smart.
Reflecting upon last season, what did you learn about yourself as a coach that you didn't know before?
Great tournament coach, obviously. No, honestly, I learn every year. There's so many circumstances that young people think they know everything, right? And when I was a 30-year-old head coach, I thought I was so prepared for it. And I just look back and I say, man, I've gotten a lot better. So I just think it's not as much about the X's and O's as people think. Because I think when people see me coach, it's the 30-something games on TV, and they think that's the coaching. It's not as much that as everybody would think. It's all the behind-the-scenes stuff that's really, really important, keeping the locker room together. I'm proud of the fact that we won 3 or 4 games, I guess 4 games, when we needed to win them. That to me says we had a mentally tough program, because I remember my first year we were on that bubble, right? And I don't know if we handled it as well as we did last year. You got Purdue senior night. Purdue's one of the best teams in the country. You need to beat them. You do it. That's hard. Penn State, who's playing as good as anybody in the league, tough, beating up on some good teams. We beat them in a war. It's hard to do because we knew, hey, we may need to win this. Maybe we're in, maybe we're not. And then we go and beat Purdue again, who we have a lot of respect for. Then we have Louisville, first round of the tournament. Really good team. Some people have them pick the national championship, win the national championship this year, and we performed. So that to me shows that we're on the right path. So from my standpoint, going into year 7, it's not so much the games; it's all the other stuff that I think I continue to get better at. And you just try to grow. You don't, as a coach, you're just trying to continue to evolve.
How was it important to take this team to Italy this summer?
Free trip, that's always nice. Well, it's important to do it every 4 years, so obviously that 4th year came up. I do think that for the players, that experience, I'm not going to sit here and say I learned a lot about my team. We're playing against the valet and the bus boys, and it's some of the competition was ridiculous. And that's nobody's fault. That's just kind of the landscape of when you go over there. A lot of the players aren't there. And I remember the first game, we were down a couple points, and I'm looking at them, getting mad at them, and it's a hot gym, and we had just toured the Coliseum and the Forum, and these guys you really want us to play well, but I think it's student athlete, right? I think that everybody's in a rush to go to the NBA. Everybody's in a rush to go to the G League and get paid, or go overseas and get paid, and I don't have a problem with that, but it's not that bad being a college student athlete. There's still a lot of really, really good things, and I remember I asked the team before we went on the trip, I said, guys, how much do you think this trip costs? I don't know if I've told this story. And Trey Williams said, $10,000? And I said, $10,000 a person or the whole team? So getting them to understand how much money goes into that, how much support that we do have, the people that write those checks, and how much planning. It's important for our guys to experience it, which is great culturally, but also appreciate it.
When Amir Coffey he left early to try to get drafted, and he didn't. Before that, there was some talk about possibly he might not be drafted. That whole process, do you think that would become easier for kids if they're allowed to make money off name, image, and likeness?
Well, that's my thing about the name, image, and likeness thing is I don't know. Everybody needs to be on the same page. You can't have senators, governors, all these people, and then not have the presidents in the NCAA all on the same page. But we need to make an incentive to stay in college basketball. if you want to go play in the G League and you want to go play in the NBA, that's fine. But we need to get them to understand that there is a value in education, like, learning and evolving and socially getting better and, educationally being taught certain things. I mean, there's so much that goes into this that's really, really good. But we also live in a world where everybody's obsessed with money. And I don't know if that's new. I mean, I think it's just everybody's being informed more. But if we can give these college kids more, see, my whole thing with it is if you are like in Amir, I support Amir. I really do. I mean, if he's got an opportunity to make good money, and I think looking back, none of us really knew, but looking back, he made the right decision. I really do. But if there's a guy between going and making 50 grand in the G League versus staying in school, if we can help him understand that maybe it's not so bad to stay in college, we're all for it, So, and in Amir's case, not getting drafted is not as big of a deal anymore as it used to be. I think Amir understood that if he gets on the right team and gets the right opportunity, his goal was that two-way contract, and he got that, and that there's some good money there. So, and he'll come back and graduate. He'll come back and he'll get that degree as well as, continue to evolve into a really good basketball player. So we're proud of him, but I do think that separate to him, the more that we can make guys understand how good of an experience, those borderline guys, there's going to be certain guys that they're going to make millions of dollars going to the NBA. They need to go. We'd all do it. We would all do it because they can always come back and graduate.
What do you think about the prospects of this state adding another potentially Division I program?
Well, I think they are. It's not potentially, right? Is it done or no? Okay. I think it's great. I think obviously it's St. Thomas. John Tower's terrific coach. I've met a lot of alum throughout the Twin Cities who have great pride for that university. Right here, Dave was one. I was talking, Jeff as well. But I think it's great. I think it's, I don't know what happened with all the dynamics of that conference stuff, but I think this state is just so prideful of the state, and there's a lot of great schools in here. I mean, I remember when I first took the job, I was confused when they kept calling it the U. I'm like, what's the U? And now I understand, but the more that we can add to college basketball, the better. And I think it'll be great for everybody.
Coach, almost every guy I talked to there mentioned this team's versatility. And you said the word here today too. Like, is this your most versatile team, and what's that going to mean?
Well, the key is a versatile roster. We deal with recruiting every fall, obviously, and throughout the course of the year, and everybody kind of wants to be told, well, where am I going to play? The good players can play at a lot of different spots. If you look at the NBA, I mean, it's virtually positionless. It's just a matter of who you can guard and, can you make shots? Shooting has become so important in the league, but guys like Durant, guys like LeBron James, they brag about the fact that they can play multiple positions, and that shouldn't change at the college level. That shouldn't matter. You're going to be put in spots to make plays, and I think these guys, about 80% of the roster, can play multiple positions. And you have injuries, you have foul trouble, you have certain things that you've got to have a balanced roster, and I think we're there. It's just a matter of getting older and getting experience. Thank you.